Let's talk about all 5 elders' Devilfruits. Because let's be real, most people had no idea what kind of mythical creatures those were when they were revealed. These are some forgotten folklore mythical beasts, so let's break it down. And before we start, this video is completely spoiler-free for anime-only watchers, so don't worry about major plot reveals. Alright, let's begin. First of all, let me clear some doubts. All the elders have high regeneration abilities and magical summoning powers given to them by Emu. So don't confuse that with their Devilfruit abilities. Even if they split into pieces, they would regenerate. Also, every single elder has all 3 types of Haki, which were mostly given to them by Emu. But Oda did confirm that among all 5 elders, only Saint Warcury was a natural conqueror's Haki user like Luffy and Roger. At first, when the Marineford War was going on, Oda revealed the list of Conqueror's Haki users. He said only Warcury and Sengoku were the Conqueror's Haki users on the Marine and government side. But later he confirmed that even Garp has Conqueror's Haki too. So it changes according to time. Alright, let's start with Saturn's Devilfruit. He is the weakest among the all 5 elders. The creature Saturn transforms into is called Gyuki, or Ushioni in Japanese. It's a type of yokai, basically a Japanese urban legend or mythological creature. You might have heard of other yokai like Hachishaka-sama, the 8-foot-tall woman, Kuchisake, the slit-mouthed woman, or even Kappa from Japanese river myths. Gyuki is one of those creatures, and back in ancient times, it was one of the most feared yokai in Japan. Its appearance? A monstrous hybrid between a bull and a spider. It has the legs and body of a spider, but with the face of a bull, sometimes even with human-like features mixed in. Depending on the story, Gyuki can be either water-based or land-based, but its most common design matches what we see in One Piece. Even in Naruto, 8-tailed beast is based on this exact creature. So what can this thing do? Like many yokai, it eats humans. It's said to lurk near lakes, rivers, waterfalls, or the ocean waiting to strike. It can spit poison, release toxic gas to paralyze its victims, and then drag them into the water. This matches perfectly with Saturn's powers. We see him paralyze Sanji, Frankie, and even Vegapunk while going after Bonnie. Gyuki is also said to attack people with a strange aura or energy that targets victims from long distances. When Saturn first appears on Egghead, he uses this exact type of attack to kill a soldier instantly, and later even uses it on Luffy. To increase the damage, he even coat that attack with Conqueror's Haki. A lot of fans thought this was some kind of Conqueror's Haki attack or Wi-Fi Haki, like what Shanks did to an admiral, but most likely, this is part of his mythical Zoan abilities. It can even transform its spider legs into tentacles while fighting. And here's where it gets dark. Mythical Zoan fruits usually awaken when the user fulfills the true nature of the fruit. For example, Doflamingo used his strings to control people. Luffy uses his fruit to bring freedom, and Lucci is basically a wild predator by nature, so his fruit awakened too. But most of these fruits' true nature is something horrifying. Its purpose is to kill people in the most merciless way possible. And the fact that every single elders has awakened this fruit tells us just how dark and twisted these characters really are. In Japanese folklore, Gyuki doesn't really have a weakness. But in One Piece, Luffy's extreme poison resistance might give him an edge. The real question is whether Luffy can outlast Saturn in terms of endurance and durability. That's still up in the air. Next one on the list is an obvious one. Saint Shepherd Jew Peter. His mythical Zoan is the Sandworm. Even though its appearance, shape, and color in One Piece feels a little suspicious, we've actually seen creatures like this in many folklore stories. The concept of a large subterranean or desert-dwelling worm exists in legends like the Mongolian death worm and Minhokeo from Brazil. It also shows up in games like Castlevania, Lost Kingdoms, and RPGs like The Legend of Dragoon. Even the Dune movie has one of these creatures in it. Normally, it doesn't have many powers in folklore. All it really has is its gigantic body, which allows it to tunnel through the earth and travel underground to appear beneath opponents. A classic sandworm tactic. It also has a massive mouth capable of eating nearly anything. In One Piece, however, they gave this guy some additional powers. The first one is vacuum or suction breath. The sandworm can inhale or suck up its surroundings, including people, objects, and even giant-sized things, and later spit them back out. This makes it both an ambusher and a hazard to entire areas. Other than that, all he has is raw physical power and durability. He has exceptional jaw strength, strong enough to bite through metal easily. That pretty much concludes his power set. His beast form is the largest among all the elders, but it lacks most of the special abilities that the others have. Third on the list is Saint Marcus Mars. His mythical Zoan is the Itsumade. Just like Saturn's beast form, Itsumade is also a Japanese yokai. It is a giant bird yokai with a long serpentine body. In Japanese folklore, it's usually described as having a human or bird face, the body of a snake, wings, talons, and the beak of a bird. It usually appears during times of plague and famine. It's a pretty creepy creature in old Japanese stories. They say it was born from the souls of those who died of starvation. Its name, Itsumade, comes from its cry, which translates to how much longer, or until when. It is said to embody the regrets of the abandoned dead, or the futility of life. Its distinctive cry always carries a question about when the suffering will end. It's sometimes associated with courtyards or palaces after epidemics, screaming, "How long?" over corpses. In the real world, it hasn't appeared in major movies or games, but in the MonsterVerse movies, Rodan, the giant firebird from Godzilla King of the Monsters, and the warbats from Godzilla vs. Kong are basically inspired versions of this creature. In Japanese folklore, Itsumade doesn't have many powers other than the fact that wherever it appears, plague and famine will follow. But in One Piece, it has multiple powers. Its primary abilities are its beak and talons, which can pierce through almost any object. Among the 5 elders, he is the only one who can fly. He can perform aerial attacks and spot even tiny beings on land from long distances. Just like an eagle, the gusts of wind created by flapping his massive wings are strong enough to be as destructive as a storm. On top of that, Itsumade can emit an energy beam from its mouth that can destroy metal structures, and it can also create flames. Thanks to its snake-like body, it can produce poison or corrosive globules through its mouth. And then there's its cry. It's not exactly painful to hear, but it causes intense discomfort to anyone who listens to it. Sometimes it can even create thunder or deliver electric shock-like attacks. I'd say this creature has the highest number of offensive abilities on this list. In summary, if you see this creature and you're not strong enough to fight, just run. But you can't escape even if you're in a plane or a ship. Next on the list is Saint Topman Warcury, and his mythical beast form is Fengxi, a boar demon. In Japanese, they call it Hoki, but its real origin comes from a 2-headed boar-like monster in Chinese mythology known for its immense size, powerful tusks, and destructive nature. It doesn't literally have 2 heads, but rather features that look like 2 heads merged into one. In Chinese mythology, Fengxi is often associated with ancient rain and fertility, with its appearance sometimes signaling upcoming rain. The monster is also seen as a symbol of greed and violence, often causing destruction to farmers and small villages. Most stories end with Fengxi being hunted by the legendary archer Hou-Yi. It even appeared in the video game Wolong, Fallen Dynasty. In most theories and mythology, Fengxi doesn't have many powers apart from pure rage and violence. But in One Piece, Saint Warcury's Fengxi is the tank of the 5 elders. It has the most durable body, capable of tanking any kind of heavy attack. It's the strongest among the elders in terms of physical strength and endurance. Additionally, it can unleash a roar with such immense force that it can destroy many things just by roaring. Warcury even coats his roar with Conqueror's Haki for even more destructive power. The 4 tusks on his mouth can transform into blades, and once he starts charging full speed at someone, no one can stop his momentum. With enough speed, he could easily destroy mountains. He's so strong that sometimes attacking him directly only ends up hurting the attacker instead. Even before the Egghead arc, fans theorized that Warcury was the strongest of the 5 elders based on the little information Oda had revealed at the time. And it seems like they were right. Now, before we get to the last elder's power, here's a fun question for you. The boar we saw in Odin's backstory was actually linked to Fengxi in a way. This is not an important detail, but it's a fun fact. Try to guess the connection down in the comments. Finally, we have by far my favorite elder and my favorite devil fruit among the 5, Mahatma Gandhi. I mean Saint Ethan Baron the Nusjuro. His mythical Zoan is Bakatsu, a ghostly Hellfire horse. This creature easily has the coolest design among all the elders. I know it looks a little dull in the anime, but when the manga chapter was released, A fan-colored version came out with green fire for its mane, and it looked perfect. Even St. Jupiter's Sandworm looked cooler in fan-colored version, with black and yellow colors, compared to the official version, which honestly looks like a soft human part. Maybe Oda colored him like that, because he might be the true Will of D. Anyway, since Nusjuro is a swordsman whose main color is green, he almost matches Zoro's style. Now, about his devil fruit. Bakatsu is also a Japanese yokai, just like Saturn's Gyuki and Mars's Itsumade. Bakatsu is an underworld spirit of a horse that perished in a fire. It usually appears in old Japanese ghost stories, where it is often linked to death and mountain spirits. If you've played fantasy RPG games, you might have seen a nightmare horse that is very similar to this. When we talk about Nusjuro's powers and abilities, they're honestly some of the coolest. First, he has high mobility, speed, and cavalry-like combat skills. He's the fastest among all the elders. Nusjuro can literally transform into a centaur-like hybrid form, which allows him to use his devil fruit powers alongside his swordsmanship skills. Then there's his fire-like aura. It looks like fire, but it's actually a cold fire that doesn't burn. And we can't ignore his ice powers. Just like Brook, Nusjuro's abilities are linked to the underworld. In Japanese folklore, Bakatsu often travels between the human world and the underworld. Brook can use ice powers because his soul traveled to the underworld and came back as a spirit. Nusjuro's devil fruit is a perfected version of that concept, so he can freeze people and objects by slashing them or even by passing through them. This means he can use ice manipulation slashes with ease, an ability that perfectly complements his swordsmanship. Honestly, before the series ends, I'd love to see a duel between Brook and Nusjuro. That would be one of the coldest fights in One Piece. Speaking of swordsmanship, we can't ignore his sword. There are a total of 12 supreme grade blades in One Piece, the strongest blades in the series. But only 5 have been revealed so far. Mihawk's Yoru, one of the 2 black blades. Whitebeard's Naginata, Murakumogiri. Pirate King Roger's sword Ace. And yes, he named his son after his sword, the blade Yakuza Kaisen, currently owned by Admiral Fujitora. And finally, Shodai Katetsu, owned by Elder Nusjuro. Shodai Katetsu is the first-generation Katetsu blade, the original masterpiece. Every other Katetsu blade we've seen in the series was forged after this one. Even Zoro has one of the Katetsu blades, the Sendai Katetsu. These 5 blades are among the top 12 supreme grade blades in the world, and Nusjuro wields one of them. And just as a fun fact, even sword god Ryuma Shusui, one of the 2 black blades, and Odin's 2 strongest swords are not supreme grade blades, which makes Nusjuro's sword even more special. Nusjuro is such a cool character. Just imagine, who would dare refuse to pay taxes in the One Piece world when the finance minister is literally a ghostly hell horse with a supreme grade blade? These 5 creatures embody the 5 calamities. Mars represents plague, Saturn represents poison, Warcury represents brute destruction, Nusjuro represents freezing death, and Jupiter represents endurance and immortality. Anyway, this is the first time in One Piece that we've seen demonic mythical Zoans. Up until now, mythical fruits were either divine, like Luffy's Nika fruit or Sengoku's Buddha fruit, guardian deities, like Yamato's Makami fruit or Kaido's dragon fruit, or just neutral mythical creatures, like Marco's phoenix. But these monsters are pure nightmare fuel. The Egghead fight is going to be one hell of a battle. I hope I didn't spoil anything for the anime-only watchers. And that wraps it up. Drop your thoughts in the comments. And I know this video was a little average with less editing compared to other channels, but I hope I delivered the content correctly. But I try my best. Hit that subscribe button if you want more breakdowns like this. See you all in the next video.